So previously, I've talked about what it's like for me personally to have post-traumatic stress disorder. I've talked about the abuse that led up to post-traumatic stress disorder. I've talked about the way I allowed post-traumatic stress disorder to rule my life and lead me towards bad decisions. Um, Sorry, there's a dog trying to record. Anyway, Pond is not a very well behaved dog. So all of that's kind of downer information. So today I thought I would talk about how I manage my post-traumatic stress disorder. There is a specific therapy that was designed that is great for post-traumatic stress disorder. I think it's EMDR, cognitive desensitization and retraining. I think I'll have to look that up exactly what the EMDR stands for. Anyway, I was assessed. I did not fit the criteria at the time because my PTSD was too well maintained. However, primarily I've done cognitive behavioral therapy. I was on medication as a child when I was misdiagnosed as having an array of other disorders, everything from ADD to bipolar to borderline personality disorder. You name it, and I've probably misdiagnosed as having that at some point or another. Anyway, so I didn't like the medications that I was on under the misdiagnosis, several of which would be the same for PTSD. So I don't take medication. I don't like feeling like a zombie. I don't like the inhibition of emotion. To each their own. If you take meds and meds work for you, then that's awesome. And I hope they continue to work for you. Everyone's different. Medication wasn't for me. Just like EMDR would be a great thing for a lot of people, it's not for me. So, how do I maintain it? It's always that I don't maintain it. How do I maintain it? Well, there's a variety of techniques that I have been taught through cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. And what I use, because I think of it kind of like a toolbox. And I reach into the toolbox to grab the right tool for the right situation. Like if you're going to hammer, or if you have a nail, reach for a hammer. You don't reach for a screwdriver. Kind of like that. The right tool for the right situation. So one of the issues that I have with PTSD is managing my emotions. Most people, when they're sad, it kind of starts at a 1 and works its way up to being a 10, as I addressed earlier. Same thing goes for anger or any other emotion. I'm the same way, but I have a hard time, I kind of skip. Because I don't properly recognize my own emotion. I was so used to suppressing emotion when I was a child that it's hard for me to recognize my own emotions. So the first thing that I had to do was I had to learn to recognize my own emotions. Like, this is what it feels like to be afraid. This is what it feels like to be sad, happy, angry, etc. When I'm really angry, which, to be honest, is something that happens quite often, it's very easy for me to get angry. So when I start to feel myself getting angry, because I know that once I reach a 10, I'm just going to be lost to the anger. I'm not going to be able to, really control. I'm not me anymore. I'm just a ball of anger. And I don't want to get to that point. I want to stop well before that point. So, what I do is, technically it's a mindfulness technique, but my therapist now kind of adapted it to work better for me. I stare at a fixed a corner of just whatever is available in the situation. And I do something that is so mundane, but takes a little bit of concentration. I don't count because I can do that by rote. It doesn't take a lot of mental energy to count. I mean, that's too normal. It's just too, normal. I can do a lot of different things while I count in my head. So, for example, I might name all the colors that I can think of in my head. And I keep doing it and keep doing it until I reach a point where my anger is manageable. Because while I'm distracting, the cognitive part of my brain, the part of my brain that would just obsess and focus on the anger, the rest of my brain is free to kind of deal with the emotion. Because the cognitive part of my brain, the part of my brain that just thinks, will overthink the anger to the point that it just increases the anger. If I focus on the situation that's making me angry to the point that I get angrier and angrier and angrier. So I need to distract that part of my brain so that the rest of my brain, the more like the trillion parts of my brain, can work through the emotion. And it doesn't just work for anger, it works for other things. I don't just use colors. I name off breeding dogs or books that I've read, movies, whatever. So that works. When I think that I'm about to lose touch with reality, when I think that I'm about to disassociate, then I do something that focuses me on the here and now. It could be something simple, like grabbing a hold of my husband's arm, or putting a puppy in my lap and just feeling the puppy, physically feeling that puppy. I try not to do anything that involves actual physical pain, because you would think that would orient me to reality, but it won't, because I was abused. That kind of just sends my brain into we have to leave now mode, and it makes it more likely that I'll check out. So, I might grab a hold of my husband's arm and kind of hold on to his arm until, okay, I'm okay. And I kind of feel that coming on. When I feel overwhelmed with emotion, and it's kind of like a sudden situation. The first time, my father called me and told me that he was in the hospital with a stroke. It was kind of a sudden, there was no build up to that emotion, it was just like bam. When I thought that I had cervical cancer, and my doctor called me to tell me that my pap came back abnormal, and it was so abnormal that I needed to have a colonoscopy and a biopsy. And that was, again, there was no build up, there was just bam, I'm always here. So, that's two ways that I deal with PTSD. Also, just do stress management. I try to keep my life as low stress as possible, and that's not always possible. Life happens, but I try. I have a schedule, and while I'm flexible with that schedule, should something come up that alters that schedule, it doesn't send me into a freak out. But I do have a schedule, because scheduling everything gives me a sense of control over my life, which makes it less stressful. I know that if I, do all the research for the papers on Monday and I can physically write the paper on Tuesday, then the paper will likely be ready by Sunday. Even if something happens where I can't do that Monday or Tuesday. Because I plan to do it Monday or Tuesday, I still got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Which makes me, feel more at ease. I know this can be done. I don't stress it anymore. That's done. I have alarms on my phone for everything. My phone reminds me when it's time to cook dinner. When I get up, when I take my medication in the morning, when I take my medication at night. I take meds for physical issues that I have. That way, I'm stressed about, oh my God, what time is it? I have to get to take my meds. If I don't take my meds, I won't be able to eat food. And food is important. It's good to eat. I limit my interactions on social media. It can get really stressful for me to argue with people. So I limit my interactions on social media. I really only look at the posts of like the really close friends that I have, because getting in these arguments about racism with people who are kind of like diet racists, they don't necessarily mean to espouse racial things, but it's just such a part of who they are because of the culture that they were raised in that they don't, recognize it. Like, they don't understand while calling someone, Black Susan might be kind of just inappropriate. Like, why can't you just say like Susan or my black friend or people who don't know just history, who can't be bothered to crack a history book and read the history of things. Anyway, that's off topic. So yeah, to keep my stress down, I do all of that. I had to cut a lot of people out of my life because they were just drama 24/7, and I can't. It's too stressful to deal with the drama 24/7. So I'm going to do that. And really, and I haven't been doing this lately because my treadmill broke. But one of the greatest things that I do to manage my PTSD is exercise. Exercise. It helps. It gets some of my anger and aggression out in a very physical way. It distracts me. It keeps me focused on keeping myself healthy. Because I try to be healthy, and not just like mentally healthy, but physically healthy. I try to eat right, exercise, all that jazz. And the exercise is kind of keeping focus on that. Like, and it reminds me that it's okay to take time to take care of me. Because I can't take care of anyone else if I don't take care of me. There's actually something that my husband had to remind me of during the ordeal with my father is, telling him that my nephew was my biggest priority. And Harry said that my nephew wasn't his biggest priority, that I was his biggest priority. And I was like, well, husband, why? Again, he's 5. I'm 33. Why? That doesn't make sense to me. And he was like, well, if you don't take care of yourself, then who's going to take care of the kid? If you don't take care of yourself, and it puts you in the hospital, or it kills you, then who's going to take care of the kid? No one. So you have to take care of yourself. Because if you're not healthy, you're not going to be healthy for anyone else. If you lose it, then you're just going to set another example for this kid of, craziness, and it's going to be hectic, and you're not going to be a good role model for him, and we need you to be a good role model for him. So you are my first priority. So can you, say some things, and that makes sense. Sometimes it's hard to think that way when it comes to kids, but it makes sense. And sometimes what helps me with my PTSD is just my support group, having a husband who will come home, and if I'm having like the shittiest of shitty days and it's just too much, he'll cook dinner or he'll order pizza or Chinese food. But hey, babe, you're in the mood for some sushi because you love sushi. Let's cook some sushi. Having friends that will take my mind off of whatever. Like, let's go swimming, or let's, hey, stay night, the Frozen Community, and just, laugh and joke and tell crazy stories. And, having friends who don't automatically turn to alcohol when they want to have fun. Having friends who will listen to me, even if it's over Facebook, talk about my crazy family. Having dogs that will totally lift the tears from my face sometimes, because they do. Some people might laugh, but they lift my face. That helps. Having a good support group helps. Keeping, away from, or at least a healthy distance between myself and people who might not have my best interests at heart, or people who, even if they do have my best interests at heart, may not be capable of helping me, who may be more inclined to enable, or, like they want to help, but they're not healthy enough to help. Or people who just don't care and just really want to watch my world burn. Keeping a distance between those people, having people in mind that are more inclined to be loving and supportive and all that stuff. And focusing on school helps, gives me like a goal that I can obtain. All of these things. But mostly cognitive behavioral fitness. As far as like the actual therapy goes. Cognitive behavioral techniques. Not as necessarily probably the one that I use more than anything else. But there you go. So that's it. That's, how I maintain, and I have to say I'm very proud of myself because, granted, I did yell at, my father during the altercation when he threatened to kill me. I did yell at him. And I did kind of lose my temper in yelling at him. But that aside, which I think is kind of a reasonable response, not necessarily appropriate, but reasonable. That aside, this is the longest that I've maintained. I've been good and healthy for over 2 years. No suicide attempts, no mind-numbing depression, no long lapses or breaks from reality, no major meltdowns. I've been pretty healthy for 2 years, over 2 years now, and I'm very grateful for that, because believe me, it's hard fought for. Very hard fought for.